Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this Committee of the Whole of Fernie City Council, held at 6:30 p.m. on July 21st, 2026. Kisukukit. We acknowledge that the City of Fernie is located within Kukinamakis, the unceded territory of Yakutat Nucleat First Nation. We recognize that we live and work within their vast lands. The Kanahunik are from Yakutat Nucleat and are members of the Ktunaxa-speaking peoples of British Columbia, Idaho, and Montana. And before I call the meeting to order, I'm going to ask Youth Councillor Parmar to join me at the podium. Please. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to thank and honor Youth Councillor Parmar for her enthusiasm and her dedication to Fernie City Council and particularly your commitment during a very busy time in your life. So thank you. And your scholarship has already been forwarded to UBCO, your chosen school. And we just have a couple of little tokens by way of thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Youth Councillor. You want to say anything?
I didn't really prepare anything to say, but I just wanted to say thank you to all of council and to staff, and especially to Mayor Milligan for allowing me to have such a great opportunity to learn about municipal governments and allow me to do everything I've gotten to do this year.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And in addition to celebrating Youth Councillor Parmar, I also wanted to thank and celebrate our previous youth councillors during this term. Youth Councillor Youth Councillors Becker, Annis, and Paraverzov, all of whom have been very committed to the role, and we thank them for their participation. With that, I'll call the meeting to order at 6:33 p.m. And I'll ask for a mover and a seconder for the following recommendation: that the agenda of the July 21st, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting be amended to include item 8.0, Elk Valley Accessibility Committee Transportation Accessibility Advocacy Letter, and that the agenda be adopted as amended. Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Adia Kelly. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. I'll now ask for a mover and a seconder for the following recommendation: that the minutes of the June 16th, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting be adopted. Moved by Councillor Adia Kelly, seconded by Councillor McIsaac. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. And before I open the floor to public participation, I just remind everybody that effective August 17th, 2026, the public participation period at council meetings will be temporarily suspended and will resume following the inaugural meeting of the new council on November 3rd. This temporary measure has been implemented in accordance with Council Procedure Bylaw number 2446, section 3.7.3. So I'll now invite the public in attendance or participating electronically who wish to comment on items listed on the meeting agenda in accordance with section 3.7.3 of the Procedure Bylaw to address council, except speakers must not address council regarding a matter for which a public hearing must be held or has been held pursuant to the Local Government Act prior to council's consideration of the matter or adoption of the bylaw. Speakers must not address council regarding a permit for which public notice must be given or has been given pursuant to the Local Government Act prior to council's consideration of issuance of the permit. A speaker may only address council for a maximum of 3 minutes, and speakers are asked to state their full name and community of residence. And I understand we have someone in the gallery.
Yeah, we have Taylor Petrusha.
Welcome.
All right, good evening. My name is Taylor Petruka. I live in Fernie here at 43 Mount Clower. I'm the resident expert on living beside pickleball. I've lived at that residence for 4 years, and last council, there was a proposal put forward by the Pickleball Fernie Association that we just wanted to bring forward our concerns regarding their proposed locations that they put out. They had 3 locations that they proposed to expand their pickleball facilities. One of them is directly beside my house at the Max Turek Park. There's one in the James White that I don't think they've specified where, possibly in the James White. And then there's another location that they talked about in the annex. We've generated a petition with the neighbors in the surrounding neighborhood. We've gathered a few signatures here. The main points of our petition were to hopefully rule out Max Turek as a possible expansion to pickleball. The first issue would be the noise. The noise impacts of pickleball, living beside it, it's a loud percussive sound, it's repetitive. We have 2 courts currently that I live directly beside. I can hear them when my doors are closed. I can hear them when the windows are shut. I have kids that have to sleep and get up in the morning for school and everything like that. So it does impact us. We've made a really conscious effort as a family not to have any complaints regarding pickleball. It was there when we bought the house, we moved in. But with the proposed expansion, there would be potential to host tournaments. We have a massive concern with that. And that's what some of the other points of the petition had too. The residential compatibility with tournaments at that location, it would basically plug up our street with parking. The volume of noise that would be coming off the courts would be substantially increased from 2 courts to 6 courts. And then just the general tournaments. Their community is also expanding, and they see, we've seen just the hours of use expanding as well. Parking and traffic, and then the foreseeable ongoing impacts, just that increase of volume and sound and noise and everything like that would be hard on, the residents that are surrounding the area. We've been told as far as over by Mount Trinity, the neighbors are saying that they can hear it on their residents as well. So it does travel. Pardon me. We want to be clear that we all want to see pickleball thrive in our community. We like it. We support recreation. We want to see it grow from the 155 members they mentioned previously, keep exploding. But we would like to try and rule out Max Turek as a possible selection site for the expansion to have 6 pickleball courts and take the opportunity to move it to a non-residential location if they choose to expand and grow their facilities. And then the other thing we're trying to rule out one of the locations. So I thought I'd propose a 3rd location that wasn't mentioned. Down Coal Creek Road, there is space that is slated to be recreation space. I'm running out of time. And if pickleball leads the charge over there, I mean, they could have the pick of the litter in that location. So that would be fantastic to just put that on as a possible location as well. I'm out of time. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Petruka. Appreciate your perspective.
Excellent.
Has anyone indicated online that they'd like to speak? No, seeing none. Thank you. Item 6.1, presentation from Staff Sergeant Nielsen from the RCMP quarterly reporting. Welcome, Staff Sergeant.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. 10 minutes, here we go. Sorry. It's never going to be enough point for me. Not while you're here, sir, anyway. So if you're looking at our current, our last quarter results, which are obviously for the first quarter of the new fiscal year, which goes from April to June, there's a number of different things I'll speak on within the Fernie area. So we have the assaults are rather interesting. Just as there are 5 events were of the 12, which were persons were charged. Several of the events were people who did not want to proceed, and in some cases proven grounds were not existing for charges, so those didn't happen. The 2 of the domestic events involved Jobley and Tuck gated Pearsons, which I found was rather interesting, and then one other assault involved a road rage incident, which involved charges against one person for assault with a weapon that failed to remain dangerous operation and stunting. We had a reported event involving a noxious substance report that we've had occasionally throughout the past 2 or 3 years. The hospital and the RCMP worked very cooperatively with that, and we continue to support the person. Victim Services does continue to support the person involved. And definitely good collaboration, which is what we want to see with those events with the hospital. That's certainly been sort of become a foundation for that, which is extremely important because people feel safe enough to report, and they also are able to meet with us and go and be able to proceed with the investigation. Break-ins, obviously, there were a number of theft of bikes during this reporting period. There was some success in that with individuals that were located in the Creston, BC area, where I think a couple of our bikes from our area were associated to that and were located and have been returned. There has been charges of possession stolen property, pardon me, that in that jurisdiction in Creston that have been continued with. We also had a delayed report of a break-in at a standalone garage where a wallet and some items were taken from a garage, which were used in the Crow's Nest Pass area. Fortunately, the victim in this case had my understanding is all their funds were refunded via their bank, and it had minimal damage with a side door being popped open with a screwdriver. Shoplifting is kind of an interesting thing to look at, which I looked at this time. There were 6 files in this reporting period with no complainant wanting charges, which means the stores didn't want to proceed against anyone. Sir.
Sorry, Staff Sergeant. There's sort of 3 categories. I was curious about the range of things that qualify. So mischief charges, like what are the range of things that would qualify as mischief?
Good question, sir. So generally mischief is kind of like, it can be a number of things. There can be, it can be directly mischief, which is damage to property. So for example, it wasn't, I don't believe in this quarter, but the Brickhouse restaurant suffered some graffiti damage. That would be mischief. There's also a point of the criminal code, which we investigate, which is mischief enjoyment, the loss of property, which basically means that somebody's been affected. So we use that a lot in situations, say where it's an occupied residence where all the parties involved are there and one person is causing an issue. So we're going to arrest them for that offense and then move them away from the residence for a while, either through our means or through an associated transport to another part. So that'll leak into it. A lot of those nowadays are linked to that. Okay. So it's usually, sometimes it's an interesting one is mischief to like data, for example. There can also be one I'm specifically trying to remember the name of it, I apologize, but where someone causes mischief or causes injury to someone through mischief. So say they loosen like some sort of item like through like city sewer or whatever, and somebody falls in somewhere, that would potentially be that offense. Act of omission would be that one. So there's a number of different ones that apply, but generally speaking, most of them for our area are mischief like property damage. So somebody like breaks a window, like in a vehicle or on a house or something by throwing a rock, for example. We don't get a lot of that, but that's just an example of that. Okay. Graffiti, obviously, and then the loss of enjoyment of property.
Thank you. And then there's cause of a disturbance, yes, which presumably is or potentially is bylaw related in terms of noise.
It can be, yeah. It could be a noise complaint. It can be an intoxicated person. Okay. Somebody reports in a public place. Typically, you have to be in a public location for us to be able to typically like arrest someone or detain someone for those purposes. It has to be an environment where we feel that people are being affected, even though, say, for example, someone walked in here and was creating yelling and causing disturbance for you. Mm-hmm. I could associate that as that person caused an issue, so then I could arrest for that. A lot of times it's in our communities, it's typically like intoxicated persons that are just a little bit unruly. So instead of they haven't assaulted anyone, but they're still causing an issue. It could be loitering too as well. Okay. Is applicable. So say somebody loitering in an area for an extended period of time, that can be reported as such, and we can use that too as well. So
and breach of the peace, is it similar or?
Similar. We try not to use that extensively anymore. It's not a very valid arrest procedure, although it still exists in the criminal code. There's no chargeable offense for it. So it's kind of the last sort of means of like, we can't find an offense that kind of associated to it. So members will arrest, but a lot of times those are involving like a verbal domestic, for example, where both parties are involved in an argument for as an instance. And so we're trying to weigh the options for that. So it doesn't really become mischief, loss of enjoyment of property, because there's nobody it sort of balances out.
Right.
So then it has to become like, well, hey, somebody's like breaching something, so breaching the peace in this
Okay.
case. So there's not an associated charge, but it's generally that sort of last ditch attempt to associate a file to those type of instances. If that
Okay.
makes sense.
No, I appreciate those explanations because I was just curious about the.
Yeah, they're a
the
little bit
nature of them.
awkward. We've certainly developed the mischief lawful enjoyment over the years.
Yeah.
Like say maybe, a while now, maybe 14, 15 years ago, that was not being used very much. And then when breach of peace kind of became that sort of standard where we would arrest someone for that in an environment where we had no remaining issues to do and then detain them for a period of time to mostly sober them up.
Okay.
That became associated because there's no criminal offense there.
Right.
So they started going to mischief loss of enjoyment of property. So that's where those sort of come from nowadays.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. So we have the thefts, the shoplifting complaints. There was theft from motor vehicles, which occurred around the same time of the bike thefts that occurred in the area. Basically, most of them involving doors left unlocked on cars, and there was also a stolen plate file associated with that. There were some Amazon porch thefts, but not as much as you might expect in the area, that at least reported to us. And lost or stolen items that were taken from like bars or taverns in the downtown area. So like wallets or like jackets, those type of things. Especially in the winter jackets are surprisingly taken quite a bit, which I think is understandable if it's 25 below. The SAR callouts we had were mainly involving tour divide participants, which is pretty normal for this type of quarter and this type of year. Of course, we had an infamous year, I think in 22, where there was like 8 or 9 different events that the Fernie SAR group in particular participated in. And of course, we had the missing person report that involved the subject that went into the river on his own, and he was recovered just a week or so ago. Sorry. As far as updating on things going on, we obviously their recent homicide up in Sparwood is still being actively investigated by our major crimes team. The mining investigation involving the death at the Sparwood mine is coming close to being wrapped up. So we'll be proceeding with recommending charges to Crown for that. And then as far as our vacancies go, we do have one outstanding Fernie municipal vacancy that we're hoping to, I'm hoping to have a positive word on that in the next, by the end of August anyway, I'm hoping to. So things are progressing a certain way that way. And as far as our APP, which I know we talked about last time, our annual performance plan, there's some great teamwork ideas happening with that in particular. There's been a lot of positive support for different media posts, and Constable Wilson, who's in charge of our media relations here, because that's his interest, has been doing a great job updating people, not only the mine traffic project that we had back in April. We had a Baines Lake recent traffic event down there where we stopped over 250 cars. Of note, and within that, Corporal Dyer and Constable Turner did a grad sobriety check with the grad group when they came off of Coal Creek in that area, and they checked everyone, and it was 0 straight across. Very impressed with the grad group this year. Very cooperative. I mean, obviously I don't think we got one noise complaint either, which is something I always look for now. But anyway, usually we get 5 or 6 because people forget when it is. But this year, very, very impressed with the grad group. Very cooperative and very straightforward with their usual parade route they do that morning, which is always interesting to know if people live here. And then we also had a recent tailgate patrol basically in the parks, which we spread out throughout which you may have seen on our Facebook post, which we did in all 3 communities, which was very well received. And that was also a watch project. So lots of positive things happening there. I did bring some media support material that we have brought out for the now reoccurring issue that's being displayed on a couple of things. Those have been posted around the schools, been posted around the communities. We've made them available to all the district and city offices. So what that explains to us, we borrowed that from other areas. Obviously, there's lots of interest in e-bikes, e-scooters, as well as the e-motorcycles have started to rear their ugly head a little bit. That is a very straightforward document that sort of explains to you exactly what's legal and what's not. Essentially, if it's electric and it's got pedals, you're kind of good. If it's an e-scooter, it has to be in a designated city, which we are not. In any of our communities are designated city. So the nearest one for us is Cranbrook, which was one of the pilot cities that was identified. Obviously in our areas, in all three of our, but obviously Fernie and being the Uber Point, they're not participating in that. We have been increasing our education approach to that. Obviously, this generally involves, although not limited to, but definitely involves more children or young adults more than anything. So we've been actively doing educational seminars within the schools since I think May, since the problem sort of started to become more and more apparent to us, which has come to great success. There has been a couple of problems with that along the way, but it has been cleared up. So we progressed from an education standpoint, which we're still kind of in the midst of, but now we're working towards enforcement. So if you follow the rules basically on the sheet there, it's fairly straightforward. E-motorcycles are basically not allowed like anywhere outside unless you're onto private property or on crown land and you're completely off a highway, which is generally any type of road that's designated as a road. E-bikes are allowed anywhere as long as they got pedals. Like I said, you're welcome to go anywhere you want. You are responsible. Essentially, the easiest way to explain it is if it's got wheels, it has some aspects of the Motor Vehicle Act to enforce. So bicycles are part of the Motor Vehicle Act. Most people don't generally know that, but you're responsible as a cyclist to stop at stop signs. I saw it I was telling Kevin today, I literally witnessed for the first time since I've been here, a person get off, it was a woman with her young child, get off their bike and walk across the crosswalk. That's the first time I've seen that in 4 years. So those are things that, if you're acting like a cyclist, obviously, and you're stopped at the stop sign and you're progressing as normal, those are reasonable and good things. I know I'm 44 seconds, I'm doing pretty good. I can see you looking, Mr. Mayor. No judgment, no judgment. But those are things that obviously you can act like a motor vehicle and respond to. And I see that several times too with people using hand signs for stopping, whichever, cruising right through a stop sign. That is not lawful. You are responsible for that. Now, whether we're on an e-bike, if we were in a designated city for e-scooters, it'd be the same thing. You're responsible for that. So again, it's a bit of a challenge because people will see us engage in activities or going somewhere and will see an activity like I was explaining to the mayor earlier today, and I'm in the process of going somewhere. So I don't necessarily have time to stop and talk to two kids that are riding an e-scooter bike in the community I was in at that time. But people don't see that. All they see is like a police officer sort of ignoring that situation where we're headed to typically a more urgent matter than two kids on e-bike. Not to say that's not important, but we just have to prioritize things. So there is, I granted, there is some communication and confusion around them, but we're starting to work our way into the enforcement part, which happened today inside Fernie with a bike that pulled out in between a scooter, I believe, sorry, that pulled out in between cars and got actually hit by a vehicle, but it wasn't the driver's fault. They had no chance to respond, so the person on the e-scooter got ticketed, not the driver. So we're starting to do those things. So again, it's a slow process. We still want to make sure education is available. We've gone to each the city of Fernie, we've gone to Sparwood, we've also gone to Elford in the means of having some sort of public forum for people to come in and bring that information forward. And we're waiting for some responses for those, but granted it is summertime, right? So I mean, we're in that period, so I grant that. Obviously, there's lots of things going on too, and you are all going through a election period too as well for those that are going up. But anyone have any questions about the I see that. Please just stand up.
Thank you, Staff Sergeant. Councillor Shoesmith.
Thanks, Mayor Milligan. Not directly related to the report, but just has there been a lot of enforcement or anything around the new speed zones? Is that going fairly well?
Well, in consideration that we weren't told about them until the day they were actually activated. Yeah, okay. We did actually do action that day when we found out about it. We have one thing I haven't mentioned was I apologize for the sarcasm. It's a piece I had that in. So
it was a very pointed response.
I'm sorry.
A very pointed response.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
So I mean, in that regard, like we took action that day. We've been fortunate. I know I mentioned previously our reservist constable who's been active for the past couple of years. He's come back into the fold, so to speak. And so he was out doing enforcement that day, not only within the grid, that's 30-kilometer grid, but also the bridge area, doing laser on that. And we're hoping to be able to do that and take that further, especially when we get into September and we're kind of through the South Country situations that we have every summer, to be able to do some active enforcement on a sort of a 6-week period where we have him doing enforcement like 2 days a week. So you can kind of see the value of what's going on in that. And I don't mean from the sense of like a charge or a violation, but just in the enforcement aspect to it and just the use of that. So we're hopeful to do that. It unfortunately just has to kind of wait. Obviously, we're actively doing enforcement to answer your question. We did go out that day and members were doing that. And I know we were aware also of the detour during the water incident by the pool. And we received several calls about that and we were active in that area too. Probably not as often as people wanted. However, we had been out there. So yes. Good question though. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Councillor Nixon. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Worship. Last week in our council reports, I had mentioned about the young kids going up and down Second Avenue, rolling the coal, as you could say, and just going screaming down there for some strange reason, maybe because school was down there. I don't know. But I've heard of people doing straight piping their vehicle and doing some sort of delete tune or something like that and make them blow out more black smoke out of their vehicles. Now, if you guys were to stop somebody, would you be able to identify that if they're beating the emissions, right? And
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Thanks. I mean, like anything else, there's always interest with some police officers in certain areas and there's others in some others. It's just sort of naturally what we gravitate to. So even though we all have general training in traffic enforcement, et cetera, there's some members that really specialize in it to the point to where they pull out a tape measure and they start measuring bumper heights and everything. So I worked with a few people like that. And it's always interesting to do the vehicle stops. So you learn a lot. In that particular case, there's nothing really like to measure like on scene with that. Certainly BC Highway Patrol has different tools available to them. I know they have like scales with them, like that they'll put underneath tires and weigh, trucks when they're in certain periods or whatever, during the weight enforcement periods that they have, those sort of things. But I don't know of a particular tool that allows us to sort of measure the emissions of a vehicle like roadside. Certainly there's a process for that though. There would potentially be like through the notice and order process, either a box 1 or a box 2. A box 1 if the member felt it was warranted to remove the vehicle from the road. So it's not seized by us, but it's generally transported somewhere where the person wants it to go. So usually their residence. And then it's held off until it clears a motor vehicle inspection. So there is that available to us. There's also the box 2 would be a sense of like giving them like a certain period. Usually it's 90 days to be able to clear up that issue. And then they come back to us. So that happens a lot more with smaller issues like cracked windshields, that sort of thing, right? They give them like a 30 days sometimes for that. And they have to come back in and show it to us. And we just cross it off and it goes through the system that way to ensure that it's been enforced. If they don't correct that, it could move to an impoundment if they don't clear that. So especially for a box 1, if they go in for like an emission test and they don't do that, that could progress to a vehicle seizure through their licensing information. It just comes up automatically that we can seize based on a notice and order. And that way we're able to enforce it that way. So that's a method around that without physically like testing. Great question.
Councillor Artie Kelly.
Thanks, Your Worship. Staff Sergeant, I just wanted to touch on the pieces for the school. There was some dialogue that maybe the party program wasn't active, but reading your report, it seems that the party program was active and you partnered with Interior Health and Fernie Fire.
Yeah, just a great job by all the emergency services to get involved in that. I know Corporal Dyer was a leading advocate of that too as well and was directly involved. I think that was extremely well put together in a quick mode. I know Chief Morgan was involved in that, and obviously the EHS. I'm not familiar with who from EHS was there, but I know your fire crew was definitely involved in that, and very well received and very strongly put. And there is plans to continue that. So, yeah, I think it's something we're looking to even bring into the other communities, to be honest. But very strongly received. Yeah. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Anything else? Well, as always, Staff Sergeant, thank you for your presentation. And I really appreciate, this is a great resource, this little handout about e-bikes and e-scooters. And I do also appreciate your approach in terms of education, compliance, enforcement.
Thank you.
Bring people up to speed and then.
Yeah, I don't think it's similar to, I mean, like the cannabis legislation a few years ago was a bit different, but
yeah.
Even that came out like very quickly, like right towards the end when they legalized it. So I mean, I'll be frank, even we struggled with that, like to try and that morning was literally, I think, when we got the information, when that particular act, this is different, but of a similar nature where we're looking at things like this and just having to sort of develop our approach to it. Because I mean, you want to be fair. I mean, it's at the end of the day, like what we have to enforce the legislation as exists. And, you know, especially when you're talking about the serious level of incidents that are occurring, fortunately, not so much here, but definitely elsewhere, particularly on the island where there's been several collisions involving e-scooters, or I'm not sure about a motorcycle, but there's been definitely a higher level of reporting. Calgary City has had several recently. So it's coming, and you know, it's only a matter of time till someone gets seriously hurt, and then, you know, that ball gets placed back. But again, we're part of that process. The educational piece, and this is one reason why we wanted to do the public meetings, was bring parents into it, bring other citizens into it, and have that discussion. So it's a frank and open discussion where everyone's involved. And I mean, it's not on me to comment on how they were released, or, you know, and how they got to where we are, but we have to deal with what it is. But I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank
sir.
you. Councilor Ida Kelly.
Thanks, Your Worship. I just wanted to ask a little bit more about e-scooters, and what are those ones called that like have the ball? Would that be considered an e-scooter? They
Like
look like a
a
skateboard with a ball in
unicycle
them.
type thing?
Yeah,
Yeah, the
So-
unicycle? Yeah.
One wheel.
that would apply to all of the trails as well as roadways, that those can't be operated? Because there's a significant number of them in town, and I see people of all ages with them, so I'm just kind of wondering how that will play out, so to speak.
Yeah, I
They're
mean,
Sorry,
go
sorry,
ahead.
Staff Sergeant.
Yeah.
They're essentially an electric skateboard with one wheel and gyroscopic wheel. in the
Yeah.
middle.
Thanks, Your Worship. I don't know
Yeah,
what
I
they're
I know
called.
what you're speaking about, yeah, and there's also, I mean, I've seen videos of the actual unicycles too as well, which are sometimes crazy, but
Yeah.
when you get like an off-road feature like that, it becomes more a bylaw issue. Like,
Ah,
so I mean, if
okay.
you're gonna establish yourself a bylaw to deal with that situation, then we're obviously willing to participate in that. We're still planning, obviously, we have those tickets available to us, and we have issue tickets. However, there needs to be a place for that within the city of Fernie to project what they want to do with that. Now, you're talking about roadways or highways as they're termed, right? Which any road generally except it, like that is built by the province of BC, it's not a private road, right? You know,
Mhm.
some areas that can get very dicey because in some spaces you can literally along the same road for, my favorite example is in Masset in Port Clements area where literally it goes private to public to private to public to public to private. It just is like goes on for kilometers, and you can have sections which are private, but then another section which is public. So we don't necessarily have that problem here, but it's important to establish the difference, because if you're on a private road, if you're on a private road, you got permission to be there, you got permission to be there. But if you're on a trail, that becomes more a bylaw issue and not necessarily, to my recall anyway, being involved in anything that would involve like a motor vehicle act offense. Obviously criminal, different. I mean, you still would have potentially like, you can be charged with dangerous operation, riding like a electric bike, right? If you're dangerous enough, right? You know, when you risk lives and you have a considerable, like, I guess you could say backlog of, you know, evidence to support that. You know, it just can't be one incident. It has to be multiple. It's just the way, unfortunately, that particular law has developed. But there are associated things that way. It would be interesting to apply it to those situations, but that would be unusual. That make sense?
Mhm. Thank you.
Thank you, Staff Sergeant.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Much appreciated.
I don't know if there's the last time that I speak to some of you, but if it is, I thank you for your your openness and willingness to communicate with me. I very much appreciate, and I look forward to. I don't believe I speak to the council until November, I think, at least. So I mean,
Okay.
it's,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Well,
it's-
that's really the reason I was asking about all those offenses, because I want to know where the line is after I'm no longer mayor.
Oh, you're well, considering the time restrictions I've been on since we started, you know, your worship, you know, I'll respectively, you know, keep that until what, November 2nd.
Okay.
Then we'll have a different discussion.
Thank
But
you.
thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Item 7.1, Fernie Trails Alliance Land Use Agreement. A report from our Manager of Parks and Recreation. Manager Hill, welcome.
Yes.
Ready to go?
Good evening. My apologies. I will one day be able to get this without help.
No
That's the goal.
problem, manager.
All right. Well, good evening. The purpose of tonight's presentation is to provide the committee with an overview of the land use agreement with the Fernie Trails Alliance. Tonight's presentation will provide an overview of the land use agreement, starting with the background and purpose, then walking through the key provisions, how it aligns with council's strategic priorities before finishing with the key agreement takeaways. Since 2018, the Fernie Trails Alliance has been working with the city to establish a land use agreement, similar to the agreements they already have with other landowners, including Crown Land and the Mount Fernie Provincial Park. While the city does have a separate service provider agreement with the FDA for the dirt jumps, there isn't currently a formal agreement that covers the management of trails on city-owned lands. The purpose of this agreement is to establish a clear framework for how the city and the FDA work together to manage, maintain, develop, and steward those trails. It clearly outlines the roles and responsibilities of each party while ensuring the city retains ownership and oversight of its lands. It also sets out expectations around communication, approvals, maintenance, standards, and risk management, helping ensure the trail network is managed safely and consistently. Beyond providing that clarity, the agreement brings the city in line with the Fernie Trails Alliance's existing agreements with other landowners and strengthens the organization's ability to secure external funding for trail improvements. Overall, it provides a long-term framework that supports the sustainability of Fernie's trail network while protecting the city's interests. This slide highlights how the land use agreement provides a clear framework for managing and using city-owned lands. Under the agreement, the Fernie Trails Alliance is responsible for the day-to-day stewardship of the trails. That includes things like regular inspections, routine maintenance, erosion control, hazard identification, signage, and providing annual reports to the city. They can also carry out routine improvements, while any new trail construction or significant changes would still require the city's approval. The agreement also sets out how the trails will be used. They remain open to the public for non-motorized vehicle use, with Class 1 e-bikes and adaptive mountain bikes permitted. Other motorized uses continue to be prohibited except for the approved winter grooming activities. While the FDA manages the trail, the city retains ownership and overall decision-making authority, ensuring the trail network continues to support municipal priorities while benefiting from the FDA's expertise and stewardship. This agreement also includes a number of provisions to help manage risks and protect the interests of both the city and the community. The city continues to own the land and retains decision-making authority over trail use, approvals, and any trail closures. The agreement also establishes a clear process for communication, approvals, and temporary closures to ensure everything is coordinated appropriately. From a risk management perspective, the Fernie Trails Alliance is required to carry at least $5 million in liability insurance, name the city as additional insured, and indemnify the city for activities carried out under the agreement, except in cases where the city is negligent. Finally, the agreement has an initial 5-year term with automatic 5-year renewals unless either party chooses to end it, providing long-term stability while still allowing flexibility for both the city and the Fernie Trails Alliance. This agreement also supports a number of council and corporate priorities and helps implement several of the city's long-term planning documents. The Leisure Services Master Plan identifies the need to improve the level of trail maintenance, and this agreement helps achieve that by establishing a clear framework for ongoing stewardship and maintenance on city-owned lands. By clearly defining the roles of the city and the Fernie Trails Alliance, it supports consistent maintenance, proactive trail management, and the long-term sustainability of the trail network. The agreement also aligns the Fernie Trails with the Fernie Trails Master Plan, which identified land use agreements as an important tool for clarifying responsibilities around trail management, environmental stewardship, and liability. More broadly, it supports council's livable community goals by strengthening partnerships, enhancing recreational opportunities, and maintaining a trail network that contributes to Fernie's quality of life and year-round economy. It also aligns with the resort development strategy by supporting sustainable access to our natural attractions while helping protect trail assets and enhance the visitor experience. Overall, this agreement puts into action recommendations from several of the city's strategic plans and provides a practical, long-term framework for managing one of Fernie's most valuable assets. Overall, the land use agreement has minimal direct impacts on the city while providing a number of long-term benefits. Financially, there are no significant costs associated with entering into the agreement, and it may help the Fernie Trails Alliance access external funding for future trail maintenance and improvements. Operationally, the agreement clearly defines the roles of both the city and the FTA, giving staff a consistent framework for administering the agreement, renewing trail improvement requests, and ensuring activities are carried out in accordance in its terms. It also provides a formal legal framework for managing trails on city-owned land with clear requirements around insurance, liability, maintenance, and risk management. Ultimately, the agreement supports the long-term sustainability of Fernie's trail network, helps protect the city's interests, and strengthens the partnership with the Fernie Trails Alliance. Overall, the land use agreement provides a clear and collaborative framework for managing Fernie's trail network into the future. It defines responsibilities, maintains appropriate city oversight, and supports effective risk management while protecting the city's interests. It also strengthens the partnership between the city and the Fernie Trails Alliance. Thank you. Any
Thank you,
questions?
Manager Hill. Questions? Councillor Audie Kelly.
Can you just touch on, so this would be a separate agreement to the current dirt jump one, right? Like the dirt jump one will continue on as well.
That is correct.
Okay. And not to bring up a bad subject, but Article 2.7, there's a bit of a typo there.
Is that the one with the width?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pointed out earlier. Thank you. I learned a new word today, actually. That will be corrected when it gets signed.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Worship. I keep these on if I want to read this. So since 2018, that's amazing. But I guess our organization and their organization has come a long way. Anyways, that's not my question, but I think there's 19 different land use agreements with private organizations or whatever it is with private landowners within the FTA. I'm just curious about how much land is actually within our city of Fernie boundaries. Like how much of the FTA is, how much of their, like what kind of land are we looking at here? Like, is it 10% of their, I mean, maybe it's an unfair question to ask you, but.
I don't have the answer to that. I'm sure I could ask the FTA, but a lot of the trails are on private land. For example, I'd say like the Space Unicorns one, part of it's on our land, but part of it's on private land. So a lot of times those trails are on private as well as the public land.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And just as a
Further?
a follow-up, sorry. I just kept my mic on.
I noticed that.
I'm sorry. And then I'm just curious about if there's overlap with the city, would that be an issue with our collective agreement? If we have people doing work on some trails and like city staff, or we don't have any city staff doing work on any trails that the FTA would be using, is that correct?
The city staff does the work on this, like the city trails, and there are some shared.
Yeah.
The FDA has been doing this work, well, since 2018. So we're formalizing the work that they are doing with it. And there's so far been no conflict with the Fernie Trails Alliance doing the trail work that they're doing on the trails with the staff.
Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had a similar question to Councillor Nixon, but the other question that I also had is the trail inventory that's in the agreement, the full extent of trails that are currently on city property?
That's a great question, a great comment. I did receive an updated map yesterday, actually. And there is not a tremendous amount more of like trail length, but it has been an updated map since that one, I believe, is 2021. So their GIS, a volunteer had done that work in the past couple of weeks. So that will be included in the new agreement.
Further?
Yeah, thank you. So I think you just answered the question was, is that going to all be incorporated? And then that's it for now. Thanks.
Councillor Ramirez?
Thanks, Your Worship. This is definitely a really good improvement here. Fully support this. Manager, just curious, what took us so much time to actually do the JUA with Fernie Trails Alliance?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
What took us so long to formalize this?
Great question. I think part of it, I mean, pandemic did put some pauses on it. There's been changes in staff. There's also been changes with the Fernie Trails Alliance on the executive and just other priorities coming up. This has taken a bit longer to get forward, but I'm happy to bring it forward now.
Councillor Smith?
Thanks, Mayor Milligan. This seems pretty decent. There's nothing real objectionable, but as I understand it, there's no real change in the day-to-day access of the trails or the day-to-day goings-on of the town, or even for our works crews if we proceed with this, correct? There's no actual change really in terms of any of those things.
That is correct. It's formalizing the work that they do on our city trails.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I was curious, Manager Hill, if the updated map, does it include any, like the gapping on the name, Purple Monkey Dishwasher?
Yes,
that-
that would be included in it.
Is that in the updated map?
Yeah, so
Because
there's
I-
a section of that
okay.
that's in it.
I did wonder because it didn't appear on here. Okay, thank you. And presumably the ownership, the domain ownership on that map will be changed to Nature Conservancy.
I believe it is. I'd have to pull
Okay.
up the updated map, but
Yeah,
they,
it'd be probably worth checking that.
yeah,
Okay.
good point.
Any other questions, comments from council? Thank you, Manager Hill. Appreciate the update.
Thank you.
That moves us on to item 8.1, which was some correspondence from the Elk Valley Accessibility Committee advocating for us to consider accessible shuttle buses as we update the shuttle bus program going forward with our partners in the community. And certainly it occurs to me after watching the Fernie Gravel Grind and the number of I'm not even sure of the phrasing, the number of athletes that would require accessible transportation seems to be increasing over time as particularly as trails are built to accommodate those sorts of vehicles. So I think this is an important consideration for us with our partners. Any other comments, questions from council? Councillor Hamilton?
I fully support this as well. Just knowing how the buses are used in the wintertime and the number of people from various abilities who try to use it to get back and forth from the ski hill, just making the buses more accessible is just going to increase ridership all around. So
yeah,
I see no harm in moving forward with this.
Agreed. Careful. If there's nothing else, we will adjourn the committee of the whole meeting at 7:20 p.m. And I think we'll roll right into our special meeting. Unless there's any objections. Does anyone need a break? No. Thank you. Okay, with that, we will move into the special meeting of Fernie City Council held on July 21st, 2026. Kisukukit, once again, we acknowledge the city of Fernie is located within Kukinamakis, the unceded territory of Yakutat Nucleate First Nation. We recognize that we live and work within their vast lands. The Kanahunik are from Yakutat Nucleate and are members of the Ktunaxa-speaking peoples of British Columbia, Idaho, and Montana. And I will call the meeting to order at 7:21 p.m. I'll ask for a mover and a seconder for the following recommendation: that the agenda of the July 21st, 2026 special meeting be amended to include item 11.2, correction of legal identity of the license of occupation for the rumor mill. and that the agenda be adopted as amended. Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Audia Kelly. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Once again, before opening the floor to public participation, just remind folks the notice of suspension of public participation period effective August 17th, 2026. The public participation period at council meetings will be temporarily suspended and will resume following the inaugural meeting of council November 3rd. This temporary measure has been implemented in accordance with the council procedure bylaw number 2446, section 3.7.3 sub K. I'll now invite the public in attendance or participating electronically who wish to comment on items listed on the meeting agenda in accordance with section 3.7.3 of the procedure bylaw to address council, except speakers must not address council regarding a matter for which a public hearing must be held or has been held pursuant to the Local Government Act prior to council's consideration of the matter or adoption of the bylaw. Speakers must not address council regarding a permit for which public notice must be given or has been given pursuant to the Local Government Act prior to council's consideration of issuance of the permit. A speaker may only address council for a maximum of 3 minutes, and speakers are asked to state their full name and community of residence. And does anyone in the gallery wish to speak? Seeing none. Anybody online? Seeing none. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to item 10.1. And I will ask for a mover and a seconder. You will recall the presentation on this item at our last council meeting. I'll ask for a mover and a seconder that the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy bylaw number 2552, 2026 be adopted. Moved by Councillor Shoesmith, seconded by Councillor McIsaac. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Item 11.1, geotechnical investigation of Ridgemont lots. A report from Project Engineer Line. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My report tonight is looking for council's consideration to fund an investigation on 4 city-owned lots on Ridgemont Lane this year. This is a precursor to any consideration of sale. The city owns 4 lots on Ridgemont Lane. These lots have seen landslides in 1953, 71, 76, and 78. Due to this activity, the lots have a no-build covenant. However, since 1978, there have not been any further reported slides. So that's older than me. So that's older than 40 odd years. Should the city wish to sell these lots, the no-build covenant must be lifted. To do so, a geotechnical investigation is required to develop an understanding of the subsurface conditions related to the slope stability and develop recommendations for any remediation required to remove the no-build covenant. Now, fair warning, undertaking this geotechnical investigation does not guarantee that the covenants will be removed. It could be determined that remediation measures are really cost prohibitive to the sale of the lots. However, without any investigation, these lots will forever remain an unknown asset. A 2025 appraisal of one of the lots indicated that each could be sold for upwards of $350,000 if the lots could be built on. In order to complete the geotechnical investigation, a budget of $50,000 is requested from General Capital Reserves, which has a 2026 ending budget balance of just over $500,000. This will fund the geotechnical investigation within the lots and up to the top of Ridgemont Ridge to determine subsurface conditions of the slope,
Tree and brush clearing, trail grading is required for the drilling rig to reach the borehole locations at the top of the ridge. To access that ridge top, the drill rig will travel along Fernie bike trails, which was great because we just had a talk about them, maintained by the Fernie Trails Alliance, Cemetery Bypass, and part of Eco Terrace, and then off to an unnamed, non-maintained trail. Staff have already begun discussions with the Fernie Trails Alliance regarding necessary tree clearing and brushing. And while this work is all on city land, any work will proceed with notification of neighboring homeowners along Ridgemont Lane and neighboring property owners along Ridgemont Ridge. During the city's 2025 fire hall budget discussions, the potential sale of 4 city-owned lots on Ridgemont Lane was identified as a future opportunity to replenish reserves or repay borrowing associated with the Fernie Fire Hall project. Before appropriate consideration for disposition can proceed, these geotechnical investigations are required to determine whether the long-standing no-build covenants imposed after those historic landslides can safely be removed. While there's no guarantee the lots will become developable, this investigation will determine whether these currently unusable assets have future value. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, comments from council? Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. I've got a couple questions. We'll try and ask them in a sensible order. If we're, I guess, let me start. Not being an engineer, not being a geotechnical engineer specifically, what exactly does such an investigation look at? Like what it's drilling boreholes and looking for soil composition, slope angles? What are we talking about?
If I may, I'm also not a geotechnical engineer, which is why we're looking to hire. But they are digging through the layers and they want to go all the way to the top of the ridge. So there's borehole at the top of the ridge, midway down the ridge, and then within the lots to investigate what the layers look like, the amount of water that's in there, things like that, to come up with considerations for, is there things that can be done since the geotechnical things have really improved, or the science have really come a long way since this no build covenant was put on.
Further?
Yeah, this is further. So if we're going kind of right up to the ridge top, is there any risk that either A, the actual work impacts adjacent properties, or puts any life or structure below at risk, and kind of as a adjacent question, if we find something up at an elevated or higher elevation, is there any risk that that impacts adjacent properties and their slope stability and potentially, I don't know, insurance or other extenuating issues?
If I may, the boreholes themselves are pretty small, so that a borehole goes down should not cause any issues or cause any slope slides. However, what they find could impact the rest of the ridge. It is a possibility.
Sorry, when you say could impact the rest of the ridge, meaning it would provide geotechnical information for the potential future development of that area, or?
If not exactly. I guess what I'm saying is we don't know what we don't know right now. And so obviously we're focused this investigation on this like slice of the ridge that's right above these 4 properties. However, as I'm not a geotechnical engineer, if they say we found a persistent layer, we may take that into consideration.
I see. Okay, thank you. Councillor Shoesmith?
Thank you, Mayor Milligan. I'm also not a geotechnical engineer, but I think this would be a good set of data points to have regardless about that ridge. And if it comes with a financial justification for that cost that we're hoping to sell those lots to shore up reserves, I think that this is fairly straightforward, no brainer.
Thank you. Councillor McIsaac and then Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Worship. Should I guess I have to do the disclaimer that I'm not a geotechnical engineer either. Should the geotechnical report come back and determine that it's not safe to build structures on those properties and so on, will we be provided with some options for what we could do with those lots instead? I'm just wondering, like, is there value in keeping them on as lots that we know we can't build on? Should it be converted to parkland? Should there be pickleball courts put on there? You know, just wondering if we come back with that answer, it would be nice if council got some other options of ways to make use of that space if we're not going to be able to sell them off and put houses on there. So not so much a question as a suggestion, I guess.
If I may, that, you know, the focus of the report is, can we build on them? So I believe that would be something that could add some flavor afterwards that our group can look into.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton, then Councillor Ramirez.
Thank you. You mentioned that the initial money comes from the general capital reserve. Can you walk us through what would happen? Like, how would that money be reallocated if we sold a lot? In best case scenario, we go ahead and we sell 4 lots. How does that money go? Does it go back into the general capital, or does it go into another specific reserve?
Mr. Burdett?
Thanks, Councillor Hamilton. It would have to go into our land sale reserve, which I don't have the bylaw open, but it can be used for purchases of really any capital nature, that reserve. That's the community charter. It needs to go into that specific reserve.
Thank you, Mr. Burdett. Further?
Just as a quick follow-up, would we be able to allocate the portion of that $50,000 that we're pulling out of that reserve to go back into the reserve to kind of shore up what we've taken out? Is there any allowance for that in the reserve bylaw?
I'd have to double check, but my gut answer is I don't think so. I think it all has to go into land sale reserve, but the general use of both those reserves is the same. So it doesn't really, yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Councillor Ramirez.
Thank you, Worship. Not a geotech engineer, but have dealt with a lot of geotech engineers in my life, in my day job. One thing that I was wondering in light of this conversation is, should we have a more defined scope for these guys? Like, I understand where engineer is coming from. This is just an investigation. They'll have some boreholes. They'll come back with test results and say something along the lines of whether this is a stable ground or not. But is there opportunity for us to actually have that pointed question beforehand, saying that, well, if I cannot sell this 4 parcels of land for commercial purposes, can it be changed into something else? Like, could we actually make it in their scope?
Engineer?
If I may, we can definitely ask the question. And we do have a little contingency built into the budget already. So it could all be within that existing proposed budget.
Got
Thank
it.
you.
I've got a follow-up question, Your Worship, if you wouldn't
Yeah,
mind.
please. Yeah.
Similar to my question during JUA for FTA as well, like what took us so long to get to this one?
If I may, so this was brought up as an opportunity just last year's fire hall budget, like how to potentially, replenish reserves or repay borrowing associated with the fire hall. So we just haven't had the capacity to follow through with it, to be very honest.
Thank you. And it strikes me, given some of the rain we had last year and the complaints we received or observations we received from folks in Ridgemont, if it hasn't moved, it's likely not going to move. But I'm no geotechnical engineer. Councillor Adia Kelly.
Are you sure, Your Worship? Okay, I also am not a geotechnical engineer. I just wanted to touch further on what Councillor Hamilton was asking. You said capital improvement CFO, like So could we, example, spend this money if we were able to sell those lots, maybe not necessarily on the fire hall, but what about on a lift station or some pipes?
If it's okay, I would like to answer that in 2 minutes. I'm just researching on the side here exactly what the language says in the community charter. if that's
Perfect,
okay.
thanks.
Thank you.
If I may, your
Yeah,
worship.
please.
And speaking of lots that we were looking at, were we not also looking at a lot in the airport that we also had appraised? Is that still on the burner, so to speak?
Good question.
It is in the wings, so to speak, because it again just hasn't risen up the priority list to be able to get it subdivided and listed, or it is subdivided to get it listed and moving ahead. Yeah.
If I may, your worship,
Mhm.
but it is already determined, it's got a value attached to it, and is it determined that it is buildable and we can sell it?
Through to council, there's no build covenants or restrictions on that land other than what would be on any other property there. There were two that we looked at in the airport. One is pretty darn constrained because of current use and what it would impact in terms of a roadway and access to a number of properties. And the other was quite developable. And so we just have to get that through the queue and into the top of the priority list.
Excellent, thanks, Theo.
Ms. Burdett.
Thank you, Mayor Milligan. The exact language is money received from the sale of land and improvements must be placed in a reserve fund for the purposes of paying any debt remaining in relation to the property, acquiring land, improvements, and other assets of a capital nature. That's
pretty
extremely
broad.
vague, yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, you could use it for things. Well, I guess in terms of lift stations though, water and sewer reserves specifically are supposed to be funded by,
Mhm.
Our quarterly fees. So,
Can that not then cross, so that money can't cross over in terms of, that is a capital asset?
yeah, that one I would have to reach out to some
Okay.
colleagues and ask about specifically.
Hmm.
That situation isn't defined so much in here. So I don't have a great answer for you specific to lift stations, but otherwise it's pretty vague.
I appreciate the nature of that response. Your caution is much appreciated. Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, worship. I'm not going to tell anybody what I do or what I am. I just look at this and I see it as a bit of a gamble. It's a $50,000 gamble that might just actually lead us down a path of if we find something bad, we're going to have to fix it or might not have to fix it, or we're just going to have to speculate on how much that's going to be, because I don't think anybody here would know how much that's going to be to fix if we were to want to sell those lots. So, just pointing out that this is a $50,000 gamble and selling 4 lots for $350, so for 1.5. So if we put it on block, 21, I mean, we're going to win, right? But just to note that caution. Anyways, I'll vote in favor of gambling. So
Yeah, it feels to me it's better to know than not know in terms of the ultimate disposition of these lands, as Councillor McIsaac has said and Councillor Raman has to reinforce. Like if there's potentially another option, let's know that as well, and we can make a decision at that point. With that, I will ask our corporate officer to read the recommendation.
That council approve $50,000 to complete a geotechnical investigation of city-owned lots 77, 78, 79, and 80 of the Ridgemont Lane.
Moved by Councillor McIsaac, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. We'll take a moment to pause here and invite Director Weir.
Thanks, Mayor Milligan. I just wanted to take a brief moment to acknowledge that today marks Joanna Lyon's final presentation to council. As you have seen many from her, Joanna has served as the city's project engineer since the position was created in 2022. And next week marks the conclusion of her time with the city as she and her family prepare to relocate to Calgary in advance of the coming school year. And I just wanted to take a moment to share that over the past 4 years, Joanna has made an exceptional contribution to our capital project delivery program. She's advanced a lot of critical infrastructure initiatives across every area of engineering and public works. Her experience coming from working with the City of Calgary in the water department shone in our water system here. She led projects that extended the life of our existing water infrastructure and strengthened the reliability of our drinking water supply, such as leak detection, reservoir rehabilitation, UV planning and design, water source security work with Elk Valley Resources, to name a few. Her leadership has also been instrumental in preparing shovel-ready designs for helping position the city to secure grant funding. And she has delivered projects such as dike upgrades, road rehabilitation, pipe replacement, traffic calming studies, active transportation initiatives, downtown parking lot improvements, construction of a sand shelter, just to name a few. She's even forayed into project management in the park playgrounds and community spaces, such as the Annex Park Playground she managed the construction of, and amphitheater, as well as she's currently working on the Station Square revitalization design development. And beyond the projects themselves, Joanna has just been an outstanding colleague, so it'll be a tough time for me, but she is a very thoughtful communicator. She's a very detail-oriented, diligent, decisive project manager, and she's really been a trusted partner to our public works team, where she, without hesitation, steps up and supports our solving our operating issues in so many ways. So I just wanted to thank her for her dedication, professionalism, and the impact she's made on our community, and wish her well with her move.
Thank you, Director Weir. And thank you again, Joanna, for all your contributions to the city. It's very much appreciated, and you will be missed. With that, I'll move on to item 11.2, a report from our Director of Corporate Services, the correction of legal identity of the license of occupation for the rumor mill.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just have a verbal presentation. This report is before Council to correct an administrative error that was identified after the June 9th approval of the license of occupation for the rumor mill. During preparation of the agreement, the incorrect legal corporate entity was included. The business operating as the rumor mill, the patio location, the term, the fees, and all other approved conditions remain the same. The discrepancy was identified by the applicant during the review of the agreement prior to their signature and execution, and they returned the unsigned agreement to the city for correction. No rights have been granted under that license of occupation. So throughout the original report, public notice, as well as the council presentation, the application consistently referred to the rumor mill and the location at 291 First Avenue, the former old elevator premises, and the specific patio area proposed. As such, staff are satisfied that council's intent and the public's understanding of the proposal have remained consistent throughout the process. I'd like to take responsibility for the administrative oversight, and I'm asking council to rescind the previous resolution and approve the corrected resolution so the license of occupation can be executed with the correct legal entity. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director. Questions from Councillor McIsaac?
Just one question, Your Worship. Because there's one is being rescinded and there's an approval going forward, does that need to be two separate motions? That might be a question for our corporate officer. No? Okay.
No.
If that's the case, then I will move the recommendation.
Any other questions? Councillor Shoesmith?
Thanks, Mayor Milligan. Can this be done all at once in one reading? Right,
Yep.
Well, then I'm happy to second.
Okay. With that, I will ask our corporate officer to read the recommendation.
That council rescind resolution number CR 3749 adopted June 9th, 2026, and that council approve the license of occupation agreement, downtown patio agreement for the use of portions of dedicated roadways located adjacent to 291 First Avenue for an outdoor patio to 157655 BC Limited, DBA The Rumor Mill, for a term of 3 years for a specified fee of $10 per square meter, and that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the corrected license of occupational agreement.
Moved by Councillor McIsaac and seconded by Councillor Shoesmith. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. That brings us, oh, I'd forgotten this was in special meeting. Council reports. Anybody feeling reporty? Doesn't look like, oh, Councillor Audie Kelly.
I just wanted to say that several of us attended the last business banter and beer that we all referred that we were very much looking forward to going to, and that it was excellent. I got to sit in one of the excavators. It was fun. And also just to give some shout out to the Art Station folks. The socials so far have been awesome, and looking forward to some more of those.
Okay, thank you. Youth Councillor, anything to add?
I don't have much to say. I went to the last couple Wednesday socials as well, and especially last week, like the band was amazing. And all of my friends and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, the Art Station has been doing a really good job.
Thank you. Councillor McIsaac.
Thank you, Worship. I unfortunately was unable to attend last weekend, or last Wednesday. I was in a UBCM board meeting. Just to hit a couple of the highlights of the board meeting, there was considerable discussion still ongoing about the Heritage Conservation Act modernization. That is still an ongoing. Need to meet with Minister Christine Boyle and Minister of State Brittany Anderson. And there was some discussion there. I think I would qualify it as saying there was a little bit of pushback on their changes this year to doing staff meetings virtually and then doing minister meetings in person. There was quite a bit of communication from the board members that those of us that regularly attend those meetings appreciate the value of the face-to-face relationships that are developed with those staff, which have turned into long-term projects even here in Fernie, but around the province. So those are quite valuable, and I'll be curious to see what the long-term results of that conversation was. There's still a lot of fuzziness around the Build Communities Strong Fund. Surprisingly, it feels like it's still a negotiation between the federal government and the provincial government municipalities, and that the details remain to be determined. So I do think there's going to be some value for our community there, but it's still a little fuzzy as to what the details look like. I did mention this prior to council's beginning, but there were two issues that had come up with regarding mandatory code of conduct legislation that will affect councils in the future, which has been delayed, as well as the maternity leave for elected officials. And let's see. The only other one I think I would mention would be the mental health kit that UBCM is working on being developed for elected officials. This has been a long time coming. It's come up quite a bit at various UBCM meetings. It was relevant before. I think it came to a head during COVID. Some of the challenges that elected officials were facing in their office. It's been ongoing. They've developed sort of a personal support group for one another. This is going to formalize some tools that are effective for that. And I think this is important to mention because I'm sure many of you sitting around this table have had conversations with people who are considering, or more to the point, not considering running for council because they hear some of the horror stories. And I think it's really important for us to be communicating that we're people who are in this, we're aware of that, and we're working on ways to make it better and make it safer for people to consider running for this particular role. So that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ramirez?
Thank you, Worship. Nothing much to add other than what councillors said about BBB and as well as the Wednesday social. Just wanted to shout out to the TOEL owners on the strip. It was a well attended gathering there for the BBB this time, and to see new businesses get developed in a short period of time, and that part of the highway corridor seeing a lot of activities. It's really nice to see that going on. The other kind of business related item, Your Worship, is in your absence, I had the opportunity to speak with the local media about our wastewater fine. Again, want to shout out to the staff to have helped me prepare for the conversation with the media. It's never going to be a straightforward one, and the preparatory material that communication manager gave it to me was excellent and very helpful. Yeah, those are the only highlights of my last 1 week.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. I guess last week I failed to mention that on my holidays, I attended the Mansask Provincial Swim Meet where a number of Elk Valley Dolphins swimmers were. So I had a chance to watch a number of our local athletes perform. A number of medals were won. The one thing that I wasn't aware of until I think it was Wednesday morning, the Elk Valley Dolphins team came 5th out of the entire swim meet that comprised communities, teams from, I think, as far east as Kenora, Ontario, and as far west as Nanaimo. Many of these communities significantly larger, like Calgary, like Saskatoon, like Regina, Kelowna, Nanaimo even. So the fact that little old Fernie was able to come 5th overall in team points is a testament, I think, to the program that has been developed here as well as the athletes. But I think the parents and volunteers and coaches really deserve a solid shout out for that effort and support. Other than that, yeah, the BBBs have been great. Wednesday socials are great. I'm not sure if it's something I should be excited about, but signed myself up to volunteer at the Elk Valley Ultra, and I will be there just as long as all the people are running. So it's going to be a great event this Saturday, as well as the Headwall Hustle up at the ski hill. Come out and cheer if you're free. Other than that, that's it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Shoesmith.
Thanks, Mayor Milligan. Yeah, that was probably the funnest business beer and banter. It was up there. It was pretty good. Ping pong and everything. We got this nice thing from the police about where you can and can't ride your bikes and all those good things. I feel it's somewhat lacking. It should say, don't ride your bikes in Ted's Concrete. That's an ongoing concern that I have, but not a police issue. Continue to liaison with the Downtown Business Working Group. They've got another couple members that have joined, so they're turning into a pretty well-rounded representative of that area. And I suppose it's out in the public now on Facebook, but the town's lost one of its greats. Keith Liggett has passed, so my condolences and all that. He was a really, really good friend and a really great guy. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, not too much report, but I mean, just thinking about Councillor McIsaac's comment on horror stories and councils across Canada and being intimidated, et cetera, et cetera. I was part of a FCM group chat the other day, and I had noticed that I sent this out earlier this morning, or maybe it was yesterday morning, I can't remember now, but it's a pledge that people can take and councillors can take as well, electrespect.ca, and it just respects the process, respects the ideas, or respects the people, and debates the ideas. So I hope that you all look at that. I hope you all sign it. And as somebody who's been targeted a couple times in this term, you know, having a thick skin is sometimes harder to do. What other things I did? I went to Revelstoke on the weekend. Man, those guys are priming the pump to explode. Their staff accommodation is over the top. They're building a second building. They have building a new golf course. They have a new hotel that's being built. There's all sorts of stuff downtown. I mean, it's going to be the next Canmore for sure, easily. I hope they can control the growth. So, other than that, thank you, Ms. Line, for all your work here. You've been an incredible part of the team, and I hope you get a reference letter. That's it for me.
Thank you. Councillor Audie Kelly, you wanted something else?
Yeah, if I may, Your Worship, and thank you. I wanted to just give a shout out to Harley Finley, who is at U18 Select Volleyball, and good luck, Harley. Everyone's excited for you, and also, Your Worship, our new OCP members that are joining the task force. Looking forward to meeting them at our next August 4th meeting.
So, yeah.
And that was all. And we'll really miss you, Joanna. Oops, sorry. Engineer Line. I told you at the very beginning how I always appreciated your always cheery presentations. You're always so upbeat, and you just maintained that all throughout, and you'll be really missed.
Thank you, Councillor. To borrow a phrase from Councillor McIsaac, I won't put another coat of paint on a lot of what has already been said. I did want to express our solidarity with the residents of Kimberley, who continue to be under a community-wide evacuation alert. And I, in my imagination, of course, we've all imagined what that would be like, and but it likely pales to the dread you experience in real life. So hopefully conditions prevail and the fire is brought under control and they don't have to exercise an evacuation order. So thinking about them. With that, I will ask our corporate officer to read the motion to go in camera, please.
That the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to Section 91C and I, Labor Relations or other employee relations, and communication and advice subject to solicitor-client privilege.
A mover? Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Shoesmith. Any discussion? All those in favor? We will now go into closed. Thank you for joining us this evening. That was unanimous, by the way, sorry. And we'll take a